You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching the Meta Show.
And we're live!
Yes, of course we are!
Here we are, at last.
Yes.
Wow. Also, before, during the intro, we had Diesel1975. Thank you for resubbing for 21 months in a row. That is awesome.
Yep, and 2 months in a row from Kantu the Ninja. Or however you say that name.
And Luminal Flux for Butts, 38. Oh, wow. Data Fiend, 3 months. Vouch for Mini Love. Random Eve player. Wow. Okay, so things are got a little bit of a sub thing going on here. Mapster Tacticus. I guess we got a lot of subs during the X47 streaming. We got 31 new subs. That was pretty cool. The multi-dollar media empire. Thanks you. Also Melkaya, Toastmaster 8. Hi Boat.
Hi.
28 months. Awesome.
All right. So I got some audio to start the stream. This is from last week on Sunday. Obviously, we missed this on the Meta Show, but this is amazing. This is from the Alliance Tournament, so I thought you might enjoy this. This is probably the best one-liner in all of history of Alliance Tournaments.
I know what you're going to play. This is so good.
Okay, here we go.
Blue Melon are sucking each other off in the battlegrounds as NC and PL are known to do. However, the Vindicator of Northern Coalition is taking quite a bit of shield damage already.
What's so great about this audio clip is the clap at the end. When everybody in the audience, or like the crowd, that's there, tries to freak out.
The volume was apparently pretty low. Dude. I know what one you're doing, and like we couldn't hear it here. Like on the,
shit, was it that low? All right, try it again. That's all right. Hold on, let me check my audio settings. But anyway, so we got a great show today. A lot of things to talk about. A lot of things that happened this week. The MER's out for July, and it's a huge news piece, and we'll get into that. And then we're also going to talk about a whole lot of other random things, like some small kill mills and stuff like that. So here we go.
Ready. Blue Melon are sucking each other off in the battlegrounds as NC and PL are known to do. However, the Vindicator of Northern Coalition is taking quite a bit of shield damage already. Blue Melon are...
There we go. It's much better. There we go. If you want to listen to it on your own over and over again, like some people are to do, there's the link.
I'm guessing it's the PL and NC sucking each other off.
PL and NC sucking each other off like they are known to do.
Yep, that was beautiful.
The whole fucking audio, like apparently the whole like studio just went nuts when they heard that. They're like, "Oh my god, he didn't just say that."
I am not surprised.
So yeah, it's been great.
We have basically again, like this show is going to be oddly similar. We have more things to talk about, but you know, I was just giving the Fireside Chat, and I had to say it was like deja vu. Like last week, we got together on the Meta Show with a panel of leaders from the X47 victory, and we talked about our victory in X47. And this week, we're getting together with a panel of our leaders to talk about the victory in X47. It's just that now it's a different victory, a much more one-sided victory, and pretty just hilarious shit all the way around. So I want to thank Asher and Jay and K-Color for joining us. And I also want to give a special shout-out for Boat, who I don't think gets enough credit for the work that he did both in this X47 and in the previous X47. One of the things that is really hard to do during a major fight is knowing who are the most ideal targets to shoot. And one of the things that Boat did in both fights was continually finding and inspecting who was tethered, who wasn't tethered, and basically being the chooser of the slain. So shout out to Boat for just doing a fantastic job of picking who was going to die. So every one of our enemies who lost a Titan in that fight, you should know that Boat found your Titan, truffled it out, and you're dead because Boat called you to die.
The best one on Wednesday was there's a character by the name of Huge Cock, and COKK, from Pandemic Horde, and every time I would call it out that we were gonna, go after it or kill it, I would come on the INN stream and be like, "So we're about to shoot a huge cock. We've got points on the huge cock. We're grabbing a hold of that huge cock." And Matterhall just said, "Bolt, enough! We don't want to hear it anymore." And it was he ended up being an I guess because of the bugs or something, he was unfit, so we didn't even know what he was fit like, but Oh, hello. Fudd just tipped $50. Thank you, sir.
Excellent, thank you. Also, I'm glad to see that we have a cool animation there. That's something. Let's see if we actually. Look at this.
Yeah,
one of the things that I see we have here: donate to INN. Click here. That's something that we changed. I realized that the elements, like the stream info boxes, like if you actually wanted to donate to the stream, you had to like read some small text that said "click on this obscure thing." So now we have a big. If you want to donate, we got a big thing.
If you want to donate, there's a button to press. Go ahead, do it. But the thing about these fights, and we've got a great panel of people that were involved. K Color, Asher, and Jay were very heavily involved in all the fights. But some key notes about this fight, and I believe we do have the math correct on this. The fight took place in X47. It was over at Keepstar. 3 separate fights over 3 different days. The first day I think was a Saturday or Sunday. Then a Wednesday. Then exactly 1 week later. So it was about 10 days of fighting. There was also an extra day thrown in there where there was a small skirmish over a Fortis RB anchored right on grid with the Keepstar that was really helpful in the final timer. Just to kind of go with this, and this might be hilarious, is there were 47 enemy Titans killed in X47. I just double checked the numbers on that. There was 19 killed on the last final day, 28 on the first timer, or the second timer. So that puts us at 47 killed in the X47, which is hilarious.
I want to actually shift to bring our guests in to talk about the analysis. So one of the things that I thought was strategically very interesting is how you got to see both organizations having essentially a rematch, one Wednesday and then a week later having a rematch. And it seemed to me that there were some differences in the planning and the strategies that were executed between the sides. Like everybody had a week to prepare to analyze what happened in the first one, and we had another go round. And I want to sort of tag in Asher here, and maybe you could tell us about what went into the planning from our side and what you think you saw on the enemy side from the planning and how things played out.
Yeah, so there was a lot of planning, obviously, and each side had different strategies that they wanted to do. We saw them try a Hector trap on us and try some bosuns, and that was a new wrinkle. But it didn't work out. Unfortunately for them, it didn't work out. Fortunately for us, we started off with a free Leviathan kill. Would have killed a rag too, but it was just buggy, which is whatever. It's going to be buggy and that kind of tie dye. So we both had new strategies, and you can clearly see both sides implemented new things. And I guess the easiest way to put it is that our strategies just turned out to improve more than theirs. And that's the thing is, had they brought that level of preparation to the first one, they would have won, and vice versa. You notice I'm saying that they raised their game, but we raised ours more, and that's why we did so well.
I want to throw to K Color real quick. I believe K Color, you were instrumental in the reason that their Hector trap failed. Can you explain why that is? Because we know what.
And what happened? Tell us what happened.
Go
with
into detail about the Hector thing.
What happened?
Okay, so we had, we got to start off with the bookmarks. So Asher made a shit ton of bookmarks, and they were all like positioned in such a way that we were going to have a Hector warp to each one. Bubble up, light a Sino, and then people were going to jump to that specific Sino so that we are all spread out on this grid, but we're all together. So once that happened, they dropped a bunch of Hectors into OTEC N on our Fortizar. But we hadn't done anything with our super fleet. Like, we still had our armor supers, we still had our carriers, so all we did was just undock all the carriers and start hazing Hectors.
Right,
and we saw them try to do something like that or they did something like that to test, where they bubbled the undock or whatever, and they couldn't get their faxes out. But with the carriers, we're coming off the undock already, so we just go by distance, and they're Hectors. Once they're dead, their bubbles are gone.
That was one of the things
that in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was like I think the total was, what was the total killed from that?
50
was like
billion is worth of Hectors and Dictors.
58 bill.
Oh, 58.
My
okay.
God.
So
yeah.
There's a full fleet of them almost were killed. And here's where it's a big deal. And a lot of people might think, okay, why would they do that? Killaby said why. He came on INN near the end of the fight as it was wrapping up. He told us that his plan or goal, and his stated goal, I don't have the audio clip right now, it's kind of missing, is that he wanted to jump all those Hictors and Dictors, get us to drop fighters, and cause as much tie-dye as possible in that system. And the reason for that is they didn't think that most of our faxes had jumped yet. So they wanted to try and lock our faxes down while they tried to do the Boson and DD combo. But where it failed is they waited to jump their Titans in dead last. That was the last thing they jumped in out of all the things to jump in. So their Titans didn't load quick enough. We did have an enemy Ragnarok sneak out. The game had a hiccup and thought that he was still invulnerable while DD'd. So his 60 seconds of vulnerability carried out. And he entered warp safely before he got tackled. So they got 1 for 2. Got away on that. But it was a great DD trap. If the Ragnarok had aimed a little better, our whole battleship fleet would have died, about 250 battleships.
I wanna ask another question here, and I'm gonna tap in Jay Amazingness. So we've now had a couple of fights in X-47, and a lot of Titans have died. Some from the Imperium, a fair amount. I mean, we did lose a lot of Titans, but a lot more from what the North and what we call the bad guys. But the bad guys actually have a lot of different alliances in them. I wanted to ask you, Jay, who do you think out of the losers of the fights in X-47 has been the biggest loser? Like, who suffered the most out of the many alliances that were opposed to the Imperial Legacy?
Probably GOTG or Darkness specifically, like the Darkness Alliance in the GOTG. We focused on them quite heavily because we know that while the last few months we've been focusing on camping their space with boat and some other SIGs up north. So the members haven't had really a chance to rad or mine, and if you're not radding or mining, your economy kind of dies with your alliance. Unless you're like massively heavily invested in renters like NC Dyers.
When you consider how much we killed in these 2 timers, and the fact that we killed 7 before this war even kicked off proper, they've lost quite a bit. I gotta say, I gotta give credit to Sword Dragon. People pinging me, sorry. I gotta give credit to Sword Dragon. He dropped his supers and titans at the very front. So they ate so many of the Doomsdays because they were the ones who were in range of everything. So that showed a lot of guts. Because other people were further back and didn't get out. Like some alliances lost nothing because they dropped out of range of our Titans entirely. Meaning their Titans couldn't shoot ours, we couldn't shoot theirs. But Darkness dropped their whole fleet within range of us.
Here's a big key thing too. The Alliance KOS, which is Chaos Theory, they're flat broke.
Did Chaos Theory have more than 1 Titan?
Yeah, they lost 2 in the fight. So they lost 2 in the final timer. Almost lost. Holy shit! We just got like 1 billion freaking subs.
Holy shit! Omni 181 just gifted a whole bunch of 10 tier 1 subs to their community. Wow,
that's amazing! I didn't know you could do that. So 10 people just got subbed
before. What just happened?
So 10 more people can now. He literally just gifted 55 bucks.
He just gave. Wow.
So all these people can now talk during that 15 minutes of amazingness.
Yes, that's right. As usual. Again, so you've all been gifted into the Cool Kids Club.
Y'all gonna thank him because it's random.
So Omni 101. Yeah. So if you
in chat if you want a gifted sub.
Yeah. So but here's an important thing. KOS is flat broke. They've been flat broke for 2 months. They've been operating in the negative now since May, according to a very specific intel person that I talk to on a daily basis. They're in a bad shape, and they just lost 2 Titans. And we can use this as a great segue. We'll go back to the fight in here just a second, but I want to share an image on screen. You're going to see this on screen right now. This is the statistics of the monthly economic report. This is for June and July. A lot of people yelled at me for this image because I put the, holy shit, we just had another 10 subs given out by Fudface. Fud, of course, donated $50 a second ago. So now 10 more of you can talk. So that's 20 people now subscribed.
Is this for life?
This is because you have the months backwards.
Oh yeah, so a lot of people get really angry at this image because the months are backwards. I was about to say that. But here's where this image is fucking huge. NGSA finishes its 2nd month in July, and they are down 60% in mining and 61% in ratting numbers from July.
Can you put like the subs above the image?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Or-
Hold on. I'm trying
yeah.
to. It's kind of hard.
Yeah, you can just do that. There you go.
Yeah. So to give you a raw numbers, in Declan, for mining, an ISK made per system, per day, 78 million ISK. So in 24 hours in each system in Declan, they're making less money in 24 hours than we're making in 10 seconds in a Delve time unit.
Wait a second. Say that again. Just
Okay.
repeat those
So
numbers. How many per hour?
78 million ISK a day per system in Declan. Out of the 68 systems. 78 million ISK. That's a Rorqual going into Siege for 30 minutes. One Rorqual. And then logging off. That's Declan's mining numbers right now.
Wow.
And this leads to the segue. And the reason I say this is a great segue is, and I want to ask Jay this, or even Asher, or even Kid Color. Does NC Dot keep paying for these people's Titan losses, Super losses, Rorqual losses, when they can't even mine their own space?
I think they have to. I'm pretty sure we saw, I think it was from Sword or someone in GOTG talking about thanks to our allies for helping with the reimbursement at some point.
Yeah.
When they were talking about their supers, like there's no way they can keep up with it, and as long as they're going to keep meat shielding in front of them, they need to be propped up.
I think that one of the things that I'm curious to see, the NGSA program has worked out so well, really just beyond my wildest expectations, and I'm eager to see as we, we're going to be continuing this war, but as this expands, if we can use NGSA as a tool of renter interdiction. Like, as we're currently doing bad things up north, we'll obviously have an incentive to keep everybody up there doing that up north. But if the source of the wealth of NC Dot is like malpay, I'm really curious to see if we can in a future phase of the war use the NGSA system to basically turn off the rental system of the enemies, so they can't.
Well, okay, so let me explain the NGSA phases. So we're at the phase now where everyone's there. We currently have 470 people between 89 systems. 230 of those are online, 257 of those are offline, which means they're in their assigned system, but they're offline right now. On average, we're averaging 3 people per system per day. So that's the 24-hour average on NGSA right now. So it's going really well. We've actually had to expand the number of systems in our algorithm because we ran out of people. The most you can have signed up is 720. So we had to actually expand that just recently. To give you an idea of what that does to renting, though, is bots and renters will whitelist you, especially bots. They'll put you on a whitelist, which means the bot will still run with you in local. So once it gets to that point, which is what we're starting to see in Declan, the few bots that are running in Declan, is that the guy that's AFK camping there just goes and kills the person because the bot just never warps off. And that's what happens with Rental Empire. So what you're seeing right now, and you saw this on the image, is that Branch has actually gone up a bit, and Declan has plummeted. And they've gone up a bit in Branch is because they brought in 2 rental groups. They brought in RR, and they brought in someone else. And RR were literally kicked out by Fraternity for botting too much. Fraternity kicked them out for botting too much, and that's who just moved into Branch. So, yeah, that's just nothing but bots. But what this is showing is, and this is a big deal, is Right Rick, who's the leader of Slice, put a lot of propaganda out this last month about how the NGSA is failing. His grand scheme of Vexers or VNIs and Procures is what's going to lead his alliance forward. And by the numbers, they're down 60%. 198 billion was all that was mined in an entire region in a month. That is sad. One system in Delve does that in a week.
That's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, I guess this is like a boat shout-out show because I was giving.
No, we don't want to do that.
Again, credit where it's due. Picking the targets, the chooser of the slain, which is really a critical function to be able to do that reliably. Because, it is a big deal to choose targets correctly. Because when the bad guys whiffed their doomsday values, that really sets you back a lot in terms of both morale and in terms of the kill counter. So being able to choose a good target.
Well,
is key.
not even the target calling is not as big as the thing that happened last Wednesday, and we didn't talk about this in the meta show much, but it is realizing that, see, in B-R, you couldn't accurately DD based on fleet, because too many DDs would be off cooldown or not on cooldown, people would be crashed, not crashed, so it was a mess. So we quickly went to the B-R thing, well, I kind of yelled and screamed, let's do it this way, and we used the Jabber channel to coordinate DDs. So it didn't matter what fleet you were in at that point. If you could lock the target, we could accurately count the number of DDs. Then, I don't know who came up with this grand idea.
Shout out to Anominate for making up this great tool that we
Anominate comes up with this amazing tool. Asher, tell us about this tool, because goddamn, it was fun.
It was just cool. It's like it's just a bot in Jabber, and we used it to create rolling counts. So, like, you know, if we're gonna shoot, you know, Flavius, just put F in chat, and it'll just automatically count for you, which, you know, as an FC, just saves you a lot of time from having to, you know, go in. Normally you have to go through and read through, and if you're doing 4 different counts, you're trying to keep track of different things. It really helped out. So Anominate coded for us. He whipped us up for, you know, in the day, and just that was just one example of how our organization can really help us win fights.
Yeah,
in ways that don't even involve being in game at all.
It just got pointed out to me by Big Bill the Boss. One of the key wins of this fight, and one of the reasons that Tether was both a curse and a saint, is that when you DD'd from Tether, if the target died, your Tether came back. You lost that weapon timer. It's a very big bug. Falcon said he was looking into it last week, because it makes it so that you can DD and not have that 5-minute timer where you're vulnerable to be blown up, right? What the hell? Okay. Anyway, so you can't get blown, like, you can get really safe with Tether that way. Well, their very first Doomsday they did by Killabee whiffed. The guy survived at 28% armor. He was double tanked thanks to whoever came up with that idea. All our Erebuses were double tanked. They didn't find this out until they tried to DD an Erebus, and it survived. He got repped. I think Test had like 50 factions.
Test saved an Imperium
Erebus.
Erebus, yeah.
And
He was
because
disconnected, he didn't even know. Like, people are like, oh, your dad. He's like, oh, man.
he's like, that thing survived B-R. Fuck. Rip. Oh well. But what's key about this is, and thanks Big Bill the Boss for reminding me here, they couldn't tether for that time. So it gave us more targets, because now you have 50-some Titans that couldn't retether for the full time.
It was also funny, because by the time he'd been able to log back in to find that he was still alive, he'd already been contracted the replacement Erebus by someone.
So that was a big deal.
Also, shout out to Snuff. They brought in so many Hictors.
Oh, please, okay,
And
Asher, tell us what Snuff did. How did they get us the targets?
Well, we both had a Hictor trap, right? Like, they had a Hictor trap on us, and we had a Hictor trap on them. And our Hictor trap got us like 9 Titan kills, and their Hictor trap gave us 1 Titan kill. So that was sort of just one of the many differences of the fight. The Snuff just siloed in Hictor after Hictor after Hictor, and were just chain holding these guys down. Even when they were getting ECM, they had 2 or 3 on a Titan, so that we could be sure that our Doomsday volleys landed before they tethered. And I think we got like 9 of like the, what do we end up with? 18, 19, 20?
Yeah, we were up 9-1 at that point before they ran out of Hictor. So big shout out to Tau AD, the Russian Snuff FC, who used to be the executive of Project Mayhem, I believe it was. The Russian.
I feel like we should just go through like a walkthrough of how the fight happened.
So yeah, we'll start at the very beginning. So we oh, go ahead.
I mean, I was gonna have. If we're gonna start from the very beginning of the fight, like Asher, do you want to take us through that, or Jay? Which one of you, or K-Killer, either way?
Isn't it kind of boring? Like the fact, like how you did the things is not as important as what you did. I think I'm happy to go through it really quick. Though
I think
it would be important for us to also give a shout out to Test, because I think this is the first time we've had like Test and Imperium Supers on the field together.
Yeah, I
talk about working well with a group too. Like that was a big part of it. Is that we were all coordinated. We all dropped. Like there was no one who was being selfish. Like no one said, "I'm not going to go there." You know, you guys need to be in front of me or something like that. Like it was just everyone was willing. Like basically what we did was we put on Bad Boys, and then we all said we ride together, we die together, Bad Boys for life.
I got that PM from Billy, by the way, a couple weeks ago.
And then we went in. So
Billy made this point on INN on Wednesday. He came in and said that the 2 differences between our side and their side. Our side was like a giant wall, right? We were vertical up and down, but nobody was any further behind than anyone else, except for me, who got bumped, and I couldn't lock the target for 4 fucking hours. But that's a different story. It was like a wall, right? It went vertical. Theirs was like a horizontal like floor, right? They had some guys towards the front, like KOS and them, and then they had like CO2 in the back, right? They from front to back. You couldn't lock some of the targets. Like, I think one of the CO2 Titans we tried to kill at the end was 400 kilometers from us, max lock range being 300. So they had some people in the fucking back where we had a wall, right? Everybody was in lock range. Everybody was equally close to dying, equally close to shooting, which is a huge difference.
Let's talk about Jay's poker face, and this guy never bluff against
yes!
this dude.
All right, Mitch, you're going to love this. And Kill Me, and then they didn't figure this out until too late. So right when they signed in, right, so the key thing here is you know the shit's going to be laggy. You know there's going to be disconnects. You know this going in because of last Wednesday. Like you said, Mittens, a mirror matchup. Knowing this, they waited till the last thing they brought in was their Titans. The very final thing. Knowing the server was going to shit itself, you had Horde bringing ECM ships, knowing that might crash the server. So the last thing they bring in is these Titans. Well, they brought them really close to tether range, and they start bouncing. So what does Jay do? He calls the first 3 or 4 or 5 targets that bounce primary for guns. They all dock up. Realizing that they were docking up the second Jay was calling them primary, Jay just starts naming Titans primary that aren't even lockable. And immediately the enemy scrambles because we had 1 billion people on their comms because their comms were public. They start scrambling and screaming, oh guys, dock up, you're primary. 30-plus Titans, docked and undocked, taking them out of the fight the entire fight.
Yeah, and that's a key thing here. Is like it's not just that they docked up; it's that when they did dock up, they were out of the fight. Like between the lag and the positioning, it was over for them.
And they didn't realize this until they went to fire their first Doomsday, and they just didn't have enough. They thought they had enough, but there just wasn't enough. They just didn't have the coordination. And we know this is true. We didn't have to use spies. Their comms were public. They created a public link for Pandemic Horde, who has every spy imaginable in it, and anybody could click the link. So we had hundreds of people going on there, ready to do things. So, but yeah, Jay's mind game was amazing. Oh, so good.
We could have. You need to learn to let people die as an FC. Like, if you've got that spy intel, you need to learn. Okay, well, we're going to lose 6 or 7 Titans, right off the bat because things happen. So,
yeah.
Just can't, docking won't solve it. Docking will just make you, put you in a weak position.
Don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Right, and I want to point out this, because of Test B in there, we capped out at 478 Titans on grid. And in total, there were 816 Titans, between everybody.
Half of, most of that is shield now, too. Probably what, 30% would be shield?
51 Ragnaroks were there.
We had 85 Ragnaroks, but...
Oh, 80, okay, a lot more than that then. Holy shit.
Their ability to cheese tank went out straight out the window.
And so, K-Color, tell us about the cheese tanking, what they did. Tell us about that.
I don't know if they actually did it, but...
Well, they did. So tell us.
Oh, they did?
They cheese tanked against Kin, or they dropped Kinetic, which was, well, I mean, you could talk about that, K-Color.
Yeah, go ahead, K-Color.
I guess they dropped Kinetic. I didn't really look at the kill analysis.
I was when the first Erebus we kill, I plug in, and the way I remember it, about had 54% Kinetic. This was before boost,
something like that.
Whatnot, but still, so you 54%. So with boost, and then you have all the links, the Titan.
Okay, so they didn't have those. So Asher, here's why they didn't have them. Here's a big deal. Geno points this out. The day of the fight, or as it ended, they didn't have boosts because they're all tethered. If you're tethered, you don't get the boosts that are sent out by the ships that are untethered. So you have to be untethered to get the boost. So they didn't have the Phenom Gens when they got DD. They didn't have their boosts. They all activated their boosts while they were tethered, and none of them got them. Then they untethered to DD and didn't have boost running.
So Asher, what else?
We were basically
doing the gen thing.
We were basically doing as close to true damage as you can get to Titans and Eve. Like other than a nuded out Ragnarok, we were doing true damage with Kinetic Doomsdays. And if you look at the lost mails for them, any of the lost mails where a Leviathan got a Doomsday off, it is like quad damage compared to any other Doomsday and against an Avatar Doomsday, which they were most heavily tanked against, it's like 10 times the damage from a Leviathan than an Avatar. It's so much of a difference.
Our viewers might like this, but you can think of Leviathans as the Pokemon reference. They're super effective, right? Because in this case, without the hardener, that kinetic hardener, 51% resist to kinetic. That means only about 25 Titans were needed instead of the usual 38 to kill that thing.
Well, I mean, think about it. When you're getting like 8 to 10 effective Avatar Doomsdays out of one Titan, like to think about how much of a force multiplier that is.
Yeah. Another thing too. Go ahead.
I was just. I think it's surprising. Like there were a few things that happened, and I don't want to be. Like, this is the kind of victory where, and also the last week's X47 victory, where I think it's appropriate to be, like, magnanimous and not be shitty about it to our enemies. So I don't want to, like, point and laugh about this and be like, ha ha ha, we're better than you, because if shit had gone in a different way, you know, we might have been the ones eating.
And it's so close to. That's the other thing. And I messaged Killer B this. I said, hey, you're gonna eat a lot of shit from people who would never have the guts to make that call, because. Like, even though he was in an advantageous position, he was still risking. I mean, I tell you what, for the armor timer before we went in, when I dropped the supers at 0, I was like, my stomach was churning because like, each of the armor supers.
You weren't the only one.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. That was a shared load. But each of those armor type supers represents hundreds of hours of gameplay that these people put towards this goal. And if you ruin it, like, it's on you. You've messed up. And there are lots of people who are happy the next day on Reddit to Monday morning quarterback you and tell you what you should have done, but would never have done it themselves.
That's one of the things that, like, so, like, going on from that, like, where I'm saying, like, I want to be magnanimous and I don't want to be shitty about it, is there are still a few things that in this fight struck me as just really confusing. So not saying, like, they suck, ha ha ha, we're better, but, like, there are just a few, hold on, there are a few errors that really struck me as unusual. And so one of them is, okay, if you know that Erebuses are going to be primaried, why don't you double tank them like we did? That was a really obvious prepreparation.
I have the answer for that.
Hold on.
Killer B brought this answer out.
The second one that I wanted to get to was why did they allow these guys to not have why did they cheese tank? They knew that we were going to bring shield Titans. Like, there was no question about that. Why did they go into a Titan battle with holes in their armor tank and not shield tanking the Erebuses?
Do you want to know? Killer B told us Wednesday. His exact words were, our supreme fitting leader determined before the fight that double tanking would do nothing and omni tanking would have insignificant help. So they had a guy who's like their fitting team guy tell them the exact opposite of what our fitting team decided for our team. And, well, you see the results.
It's all good for people to sit there and, you know, EFT Warrior or Pfeiffer Warrior or that. But we made our fitting choice based on the things we'd learned in actual combat from the previous fight.
Well, yeah, I got talked out of cheese tanking the Erebuses and dual tanking them for the first one. And after the second one, I'm just like, you know what, I should have gone with my gut, and I'm doing it this time. And I'm really happy I did, because it turned out we saved one Erebus, but I think we saved a lot more, actually, that would have died if we hadn't done it. So I know for sure that they're considering it as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if the next one of these happens. We'll see a lot more of that. The thing is, this is going to sound like maybe smug, and it's not meant to be smug. To do it, you have to take off guns. You can't have a full rack of guns on the Erebus.
Yeah, Killer B pointed that out, yeah. He said you had to take
off
one
fine, because that's the thing. Like,
it's fine to us.
Oh, well, I guess, yeah. I mean, it is fine to us, because in these fights, it's mainly about Doomsdays, right?
Right, guns don't matter. Exactly. Guns didn't matter.
And guns are helpful, but keeping your Titan alive, like, you know, if it takes them 1.5 or double the amount of time to take down one Erebus, because you took off 2 guns, then that's worth it for the survival of the fleet.
Well, with the exception of the Leviathan, each Titan is basically a dread at that point. And what we've learned from the way faxes work, you've got 400 or 500 faxes on both sides. You're not going to break something with guns. Killer B pointed that out last Wednesday in the audio clip that we shared last Saturday, is that if you're getting primaried by guns, just broadcast for reps. We got plenty of fax. We'll save you. So knowing that guns don't matter shouldn't be a problem taking off a gun or two, right? If you know this going in, that should have been your thought. But here's another thing that confuses me, and Mittens, maybe you can comment as to why an alliance leader would do this. And we'll segue to this image. If you know that tie-dye causes your people to disconnect, you know that tie-dye is generated heaviest by AoE things. Bombs, smart bombs, and ECM bursts. Why is a coalition leader, one of the few coalition leaders in this fight, would you tell your entire alliance, Gobbins, to do 3 fleets of ECM bursting ships?
Yeah, so for people who were unaware of this, the background here is curious. It's something I asked Killaby directly on stream during the aftermath of the fight. You know, Pandemic Horde in both of these engagements brought a ton of Punishers, and this time Jackdaws as well, fit with ECM burst jammers. And the real reason for this is that if they lagged...
That wasn't the reason. Like, the reason is it's like an AoE effect, right, that doesn't do any damage. But if they put bounties on each other, then the system has to, when they die, because, you know, those will bring and they would die, the server would have to calculate how much pilot in the fleet that killed the Punisher gets paid
split it up,
based on the bounty. Yeah. So they were just putting bounties on each other before the fight. We saw this because
they went to a safe spot and did this. We told Falcon. So a lot of people don't know this. Falcon was warned of this an hour or two before the fight because they started doing it before the fight started. They went to a safe spot. They told everyone to put a 1S bounty on everybody, or whatever the cheap bounty is, 100, 1 million, whatever it was. And so they spread bounties around in each fleet. They did it from a safe spot. Within about 10 minutes of the fight starting, Crime Watch was turned off, the bounty program. We don't know. It's coincidental. The CCP never said why, but we're pretty damn sure why they turned it off, because they were intentionally trying to cause as much lag as humanly possible.
There were a lot of coincidences in this, but like we won so hard, we don't need to point them out. Like there's no there's no benefit to saying like oh they were trying to lag out, and I'm guilty of this sometimes too. But when you do this well, you don't need to say, well, this is what happened.
CCP already is aware. They're looking into it. Another thing too, Falcon came on, told us server peaked. This server performance handled slightly better than last Wednesday. It peaked at 4978, so just shy of 5,000 people. It was the 8th highest fight ever.
Didn't they try to blame us for DDoSing the server and shit like that? Like, what benefit do we gain if the server crashes?
Yeah, that happened too.
We lose the timer.
That's one of the things that one of the ironies of this is the line from the enemy, and in this case, most famously, Doom Chinchilla, the PLFC, had a complete meltdown on Twitter, talking about how it's CCP's fault that the servers aren't doing well, and that in addition to blaming CCP, he even accused CCP of making up the DDoS attack. Doom Chinchilla's claim was that CCP was inventing a DDoS. We know it wasn't invented because we got DDoSed as well. But it really is a hilarious irony where the people who were intentionally bringing hundreds of vessels and attempting to use a lag exploit to try to crash the servers were then surprised and complained and were upset about the fact that the servers were having trouble with disconnects. It was really sort of a live by the sword, die by the sword kind of situation.
A bit of a smug moment for our IT guys. I want to give a shout out to Kilgarth and Anominate both. We got hit with a DDoS right before CCP did.
A big one, too.
A big one. Yeah, right on our Mumble servers, and we weathered it. We took it to the face. As we were calling primaries, our Asher was, at one point, you couldn't hear him anymore. And we didn't know why. We just thought we had so many people that the shit was dying, which has happened before. So credit to our pilots. We thought you were crashing the server because there was just so many of you. But Anominate points out there was a DDoS attempt, and right after it ended on us, it transferred to CCP. The same amount, the same size, and put a lot of pressure on CCP. So high five to our IT people who made the DDoS seem like nothing, and CCP, because they got hit with a DDoS last Wednesday, and it hit the login servers really hard. Login servers didn't work for a while. This time, I think CCP was a lot more prepared. Login servers worked great.
He brings up a good point there. Yeah. He talks about how they were NCing Horde, and then we're trying to kill DC Titans, but we had our Baltic fleet ready and our dreads ready to counter drop. And if I'm correct, I don't think we lost a single DC Titan this time.
No.
And we killed a lot of dreads. Like we saved Titans and killed dreads, which is just like driving fast and eating ass. It's what all the kids are doing these days.
But here's a good point about the DDoS thing too. Is Doom Chinchilla was raging hard in multiple places. I linked another link here where he like screamed at Wibla. But just a week prior, he killed a Moloch in a safe spot as part of the PL crew that dropped dreads on it. Killed a Moloch and was smug as hell about killing a offline crashed Moloch that only crashed because the servers couldn't handle him. It's the only reason.
If our enemies could weaponize their hypocrisy,
yes,
the way that they, if they could actually weaponize their hypocrisy, Delve would be
with that already
paved over tomorrow. But like we would be crushed by the force of their weaponized hypocrisy.
I have a takeaway from this, and this is something that makes it's gonna make a lot of people wonder. This is the first and only fully defended Keepstar to die. This is a true. Everybody show up and defend this motherfucker from moment to moment to moment. There were 4 separate fights over 4 different days involving this particular Keepstar. That's one Keepstar. There's about 5 in the north left to die. There's 20-something in Delve still. There's at least 10 in test space. If that is an example of one of these things, imagine the rest of these trying to get killed. Like, it's just insane to think about just how many more Titans and Supers and Dreads are going to die and Faxes for a Keepstar to disappear.
Well, I think it's fantastic. I mean, one of the things that we were worried about, I mean, not necessarily everybody in EVE, but I think there was a concern when Keepstars first came out. And I was very skeptical of them, and I probably said this on the Meta Show, I don't remember. But there was this real worry that it would be impossible to take down a Keepstar. And that, for a while, the only Keepstars that died were the ones that were either onlining and thus didn't have defenses, or mostly completely undefended ones that people just gave up on. So it is... I think this is a good example of seeing how the players adapt and how, like, we in the Imperium and our allies in the Legacy Coalition have, like, kind of cracked the code. It doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean that we're going to, like, not lose a bunch of stuff doing it. But you're starting to see a plan to crack the code of how to take down a gunned and defended Keepstar. And the sort of play and counterplay there is has been really interesting to see.
Well, this might be a devil's advocate moment. And I want to get Asher, especially his point of view on this. But I personally believe killing Keepstars are impossible for 90% of the game. And the only reason this one died the way it did is because we put down 300 plus Titans to every timer. Right? I don't see any single alliance, right, on their own killing a defended Keepstar in the game. I just don't see it happening. I don't see.
I mean, the only ones who have killed the defended Keepstar that was defended by a real alliance, like the Tri one died, right? So that was basically to
right, but they have like 2,000 people going against like 200.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was a huge coalition against essentially just Triumvirate at the time, and these ones that we've killed, right? Like, has there been another defended Keepstar that's been killed?
CO2 was defended on the armor timer, but they didn't show up for the final timer, and 5,000 people showed up to kill it because it was the first online one to die. And that's
the one in MTech O,
right? MTech O. Nobody showed up, but this is
it
where
was so outnumbered. It was crazy.
But this is my point. If not for coalitions in EVE assaulting a Keepstar, that Keepstar that we killed doesn't die. Like, if we don't have that many people. Because just the way the game mechanics are now and how strong Keepstars are, you're not going to get past an armor timer if you are a Providence, like a Provi block. They're not going to break a Keepstar from, say, an NC Dot or a GOTG. I don't see it happening. Like, if Alliance is alive and functioning, they won't lose a Keepstar.
But you have to bring so much force, because the Keepstar is such a force multiplier. You have to bring so much force that it will that the Keepstar becomes an irrelevant proposition other than a big tether point, right? Like the power of the Keepstar was the tether. We had so much stuff that we could, you chained Titan Doomsday, chained Keepstar Doomsday, 8 faxes and they all blew up. Yeah, oh well, bring more faxes in. Like, that's the only way to assault it, where you can actually look at that and say, oh, that's no problem. And, a year ago, we weren't in that place. We were in the place where we could just say, 8 faxes? Yeah. We'll eat that every time Doomsday, yeah.
I just realized that essentially the function of the Keepstar is it's like a gear check in a traditional MMO.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Or numbers check. How many people did you bring? Did you bring the 100?
One of the things that we got a question here in chat, and I do like to, when we go into Cool Kids Only mode like this, where only subscribers can talk, I do like to take questions from chats so that we can give a little added value to people who are supporting the channel. And the question was, what is the end point for this war from Mech 101V?
Oh shit, Seer just spawned in my Rourke. Officer spawn. Holy shit.
Awesome, congratulations.
Who was it this time?
Monsieur.
Oh, nice.
Sorry, Mittens.
Go
Doing
ahead.
this stealth things, no big deal. Question is, what is the endpoint of this war? And that's an interesting question because this is a non-traditional sort of war. We have seen the war began, of course, when PL invaded Test. PL has now moved north. We don't know what PL is going to do next, but it looks like the Test, the Legacy side of the war, is easing up a bit for Legacy. Villy might be able to give us a better update there.
Cut out like massively did.
What's that?
You cut off after PL deployed north, and that was it.
Oh, that's weird. Sorry.
Go ahead, start again.
All right, try again. So PL deployed north massively, and we don't really know what's going on the Legacy side. It looks like things are going to be easier for Legacy because PL is up north, though PL might go back to attacking Legacy.
We do know. The day that PL moved north, that same day, within 12 hours, Villy stayed up till about downtime, about an hour before downtime, killed a Titan, 35-40 dreads, and about 10 facts. Wiped out a FRT move op to defend a Fortizar the FRT was trying to defend in Faith of Ballas. That's been the only fight since UALX to happen. Like, in major terms of, like, something important. There hasn't been anything to happen.
Okay. So, I mean, from a couple of objectives, you can judge the course of this war. So if Legacy is not under pressure from the people who are attacking that front, that's a victory condition for Legacy, is to defend their shit and to exhaust the attackers after UALX and after X-47. For the Imperium side of the war, our objective, and we've been very open about this on Firesides and on the Meta Show, is we are punching downwards. Our enemies have not prepared enough in terms of making ISK, in terms of adopting to the new version of EVE. They are still relying on a world where they can get cheated ISK that was exploited through the casino system handed to them on a platter. They want to have ISK handed to them on a platter again. They don't want to work to actually get their spaceships. So we do the work, and so what we are doing is we are just punching downward on these guys to increase the lead that we have over them economically and militarily. So essentially, as far as the Imperium is concerned, because we're not taking their space, our goal is purely to hurt the bad guys such that we continue to increase our lead over them. We can basically just do this until, especially after X-47, we can just keep punching downward until we get sick of it. And that's essentially what you should expect to see is, we're mining and ratting and delve and making money, but we haven't undeployed from the north, and we intend to continue to punish everyone who was ever involved in the casino war. This is what they asked for, this is what they deserve, and this is what they're going to continue to get.
Test punishment is working with us.
That is pretty serious.
Here's a big point to this, when you talk about victory conditions, is that if you look at the game, it doesn't matter how much money, we brought this up last Saturday because of the Wednesday fight, now this Wednesday, same thing. It does not matter how much money ISK your renters are paying you. They could pay you 10 billion, they can pay you 20 billion a system. ISK is irrelevant at this point in the game because so many Titans are being built and so many Titans are dying and having to be rebuilt, that there's not enough minerals being mined in the game to suffice or to make up for those losses. Jita spiked 8 billion ISK in mineral costs for a Titan, from around 57 billion to 65 billion overnight. And
that reminds me.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. So something that people who are not affiliated with the Imperium who are watching the show might want to know about. We've talked about this on a couple Firesides now, but I want to just throw a little chaos into the Jita market. The Imperium has decided after these battles that we are going to stop exporting ore or ice products whatsoever to Jita. We are just going to turn off the faucet of exports to Jita because we can put everything we need in 1DQ1. So if you are a market speculator and you're looking at the Jita market, realize that there is going to be a massive supply crunch. The Imperium is no longer going to export these core things because we can use them internally to build Titans and ships just fine in 1DQ1. So if you see the ore market start to go ballistic in Jita, or if you want to speculate on the ore market or the ice products market in Jita, go nuts. The Imperium is out of there because all that stuff just goes to build ships for our enemies. So
it's still
cutting
hard.
it off.
Oh, it's hard enough to take the minerals, right, Jay? Because they're pretty heavy, right?
Yeah, it costs a fair amount to ship them up north if you'd export just the compressed, or you want export minerals. But I do want to thank everyone for using Munins, because my moon goo pile goes up every time you use a Munin fleet.
Which is quite often, actually.
Very often. We had a question here about how did the war affect the delve, ratting, and mining. We certainly stopped ratting and mining for the last, I guess, like 2 weeks once we moved the shields up north to go ahead and take down the X-47 Keepstar. However, we've already moved our shield super umbrella back down to delve, and the Imperium is having a get-rich party. We're just sort of going ballistic for a little bit because, again, this is an advantage we have because of amazing innovations like the having both a shield and armor super fleet and Boat and Wild's NGSA program and everybody who's participating on that. We can continue to oppress our enemies while we ourselves are like, oh, okay, we blew up a Keepstar, so we're going to keep doing bad things up north with our armor and supers and get rich down south.
I will answer this. If you look at the July, we're down from 11 trillion mined in June to 8 trillion mined in July. But while we've mined only 8.2 trillion in 1 month, all of the North combined doesn't even equal half that. So while one region in Delve, this is not including Aquarius, only pulls in 8.2 trillion, all of the North from Pureblind Fade, Branch Tenal, Tribute Vale, and Declan are not even pulling in 4 trillion. So it doesn't... A lot of people right away when the MER came out went, oh my god, Goons dropped 3 trillion. Holy shit. Like, this is impossible. Like, how's this happen? And the immediate reply is, well, who cares? 3 trillion's a drop in the bucket when the rest of the game can't even equal half that.
It's all about relative power. Like, the entire point of this war is to basically... The Imperium has a lead, and our goal is to preserve our lead and increase our lead over our enemies so they can't catch up. The FC team here that we have assembled and everyone that has been participating from an Imperium side and a Legacy side against this, I mean, let's not forget, we're sitting around here and we're smugging about like winning in UALX and winning in X-47, winning in BR5. You know, NC and PL have been an existential threat to both the Legacy Coalition and to the Imperium for years. So, you know, this isn't just about, like, getting a place where we can get more enemy than the bad guys. Like, we have really, like, faced the dragon in their lair in a place where they had an advantage over us because they were fighting on a Keepstar, which is just a huge force multiplier, and we won. So, high fives, guys. Good work.
We don't have a lot of time left because I do have to go as soon as we finish the show.
Yep.
But this is a big deal. They have this group called Ghost Legion now for GOTG. It's their version of a Black Ops. They posted a video, 3 or 4 videos.
Did you watch the video?
Yes. So they posted like 3 or 4 videos. 90% of the videos is either them warping, undocking, or dying. 10% is them actually killing stuff. Now, if I make an Eve video that's an hour long, I will chop out that 90%. They leave it in because in the 10 minutes they have on their chopped video, that's all they have to celebrate. But what's great about this is, according to Big Bill the Boss, out of that 198 billion is their mining in Declan, a chunk of that is going to this Ghost Legion project that is constantly losing ships. Go ahead, Jay.
So it's like a 7-minute long video. I'll set the scene.
Link it, please. Or link it next one. I'll link it to the stream.
The first is a Goon Thanatos in the wild riding, right? Which they failed to kill because instantly, as soon as they sign a win, we sign a win in Minakawa and they just leave. That takes up the first minute and a half of the video, right? So yeah, the next kill is of a Vex and Navy issue, I think, which they kill obviously. So one Vex and Navy issue down at the 2-minute mark, and then they drop on a rattlesnake and kill that. And then that's pretty much the video. Like, I mean, a Rorqual dies, I think. One Rorqual dies, and then another Nidhogger. That's it. And that takes up 7 minutes to show that footage.
3, 2, 1, Kenshin. Oh, speaking of extreme upsets, we haven't covered this yet, and I just want to touch on this before we leave. You know, I have a perfect record in the Alliance tournament. And thank you to Asher for that, for allowing me to become an elite PvPer in the Alliance tournament. And so, along with my perfect record in the Alliance tournament comes a vague interest in the Alliance tournament. But it's so vague that I didn't even realize until before the show that apparently there was a big upset today in the AT. Boat, you were mentioning that?
Yeah, so real quick, I got the videos for you guys. we've got the first one is them warping around in X47, like logging in, logging off, docking, undocking, and that was in X47. That's a 7-minute video, and the second one's their Ghost Legion. So if you want to see those, there it is. But yeah, Pandemic Legion is out. They did not make the final 10. They didn't even make the final 16. They were upset in the loser bracket, losing a 70 to 80 billion ISK battleship, and it was very expensive.
They had a Cormax damage control. That's like a 50 billion ISK damage control.
They just don't drop. They never drop. They only drop, I believe, Fountain is where you'll see them, and even then, it's very extremely rare.
I'm pretty sure I saw one in X47. That was the Cormax damage control, right? When it
That's actually someone made a joke about that. But Jay, can you tell us what you know?
Me.
Oh.
I am the Joker.
Wow. Okay, Jay, tell us about PL.
I haven't watched it at all yet for them. The AT, I haven't watched any of it.
Yeah, I would. I like.
Okay.
it.
I haven't had time to watch it.
I don't have.
I captained our team, but like I had to step down when this war started, and like Wild and Dirk and Locke, they all stepped up, but it was like.
Well, it is from a strategic perspective interesting because when PL, when it was at first announced there weren't going to be any ship or any other fancy rewards for the AT, PL were amongst the group that was howling in rage because the only other thing that PL used to fund their empire besides dirty casino money and exploits was AT winnings.
By buying people off to win.
Yeah, and so now they don't even get that. So it's been kind of a bad day at the midway for
I heard a rumor,
those boys.
And before we go here, we're out of time. I heard a good rumor, and this is a rumor. I don't know if it's been corroborated by many people, but I've heard this rumor that this AT was a specific group within PL, and they were funded very heavily with the expectation that PL was going to get their money back. They're going to win. It's like a loan shark giving you a whole lot of money going, look, if you lose this money, I'm going to break your kneecaps. And it sounds like that's what happened with this group. They went and spent a couple hundred billion.
Do you like Alex Boat or the Big Red Jones? Which one is more appealing?
Don't say that, dude. Someone already got banned on YouTube just for mentioning that name, dude. So careful with that.
I called him Wolf Boltzer at one point.
Wolf Boltzer.
Wow, what the fuck? God, so horrible. But yeah, it's not been good. It's not been good. It's been bad for people that go to the AT.
Boat War.
I hear NC actually won their match today, so hopefully they can replace some times with their winnings.
Skill U did really well, but they're gonna have to face Triumvirate in I think the loser bracket. Those two are good friends. Skill U does really well at the Alliance tournament. They do extremely well. Boderson Cooper. What the fuck?
I actually misspoke there. Not NC replacing their own Titans, replacing GOTG Titans.
Oh damn!
Wow. This is one of those Boat Rogan. Wow. The AT, it's an interesting point here because CCP is not running this. It's run by a third party this year. I haven't had any interest in it. I don't know about a lot of other people, but I haven't watched it. I watched our matches, the two Goon ones, but because they do it so damn early in the day, I think they do it at it starts at like 10 a.m. my time. It's too early to wake up. I mean, in the past, when CCP ran it and they had some interesting commentators, I would always watch. But it feels like it's the same commentators year after year after year, and it just gets to a point where it's like, yeah, I've heard this before. I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but that's how I get about it.
I gotta say I like the even T guys. Like I'm a big fan of Nash Cadaver, but then again, I'm easily, I like, when I meet somebody and I like them, then I'm like, oh, I think they're cool. So I'm biased. I don't know. I'm just happy that I finally got a chance to fly in it, and that the guys led us to victory that one time, and that's all I got.
Yeah, I mean, we're out of time here. Anything else anyone wants to talk about from this week's fun times?
Status just Botus Lane, which I quite like that one.
Botus Lane. Wow, wow. There's a lot of those names that have been great. Rubert Boat Dock. Boat O'Reilly. One last thing before we go.
Thanks for all the subs, also, by the way.
We had about 30 of them.
Crazy sub gifting, crazy subs. The multi-dollar media empire does appreciate it. And thank you all very much for being part of the Cool Kids Club. That's really neat.
I asked Mittens if he'd get me a free sub to this channel, and he said that I have to kill at least 25 Titans in the next fight to do it. So
You know, you
stretch goal.
might be in line for a promotion if you just keep killing, you know, another 20, 30 Titans here and there. It's something we might be able to discuss, but
yeah.
I just don't think
You
it's the
would've-
right time.
You would have got a promotion after the last time, but you lost one Titan.
Yeah, yep, that's an unforgivable mistake.
You
Yeah.
need to stop offloading your workload to boat. I mean,
Wow, you guys need to stop. This is horrible. One last thing before we go. Killer Bee pointed this out. We didn't have him on today. We will have him on next week. He said he will come on next week and chat with us and tell us about the war and everything. And Killer Bee's
been really good about going on the shows.
Yeah,
Like, that's
Yeah, props to him on that. He's been an adult about this entire thing, in stark contrast to Doom Chinchilla.
out of all of
well,
the
he
people.
should be max level by then, right? It's a week.
Wow. All right, so out of
I'll be doing it in a few days.
out of all the people we've had ever interact with this show, I think Killer Bee, for as far as the enemies go, he's been one of the chillest ones to come on. Villy was an enemy for a short time, and he would still come on and everything.
Killer Bee?
But Villy, I think, is still part goon in some ways. So, but yeah, Killer Bee always comes on, and he's always fun to have on and everything. But one of the best things about that is he points out that when they lose, and this is something that historically has happened with every enemy we've ever faced, when they lose hard. They don't do ops the next few days. They don't do farm ups, and if they do farm ups, not a lot of their guys show up because their guys really bite into this myth that they are winning during the fight. You saw in the audio of Killer Bee, he points out that they were way ahead, and they really weren't. They weren't up 20-2 at any point at all this week.
Max Stichters, they're running. Get Max Stichters.
Yeah,
You saw that from CO2 at one point.
yeah, we saw that from CO2. There's been a lot of
Sure.
that.
The irony of that, just saying that color, because they left early. The Alpha timer.
Yeah, CO2 was last. The first one's last one's in, first one's out.
Yeah.
But I think that's
once we
the
start shooting
point.
them, they tethered up.
I've been asked to link this. Sorry, Asher, I'm linking this. Someone asked me to link this, but this is the
My
image
loot.
of his bad luck. I would
That's
say
the wrong one.
No, there's two of them. There's two of them. But we're out of time. But yeah, so that's I keep saying we're out of time. But I keep talking. But that's the key thing here is that, like Band of Brothers in the past, like PL in the past, like a lot of our enemies in the past, when they get punched in the mouth, it takes them a couple of days to recuperate. Whereas if goons lose 20 Titans, they're there tomorrow, ready to do it again, because they're not spoon-fed bullshit. They're not spoon-fed this idea that they absolutely won. They crushed our enemies, and they don't need to do anything for a couple of days. I don't know if that is because they rely on one key figure, and that key figure just goes, fuck this. I can't do this right now. Or is it because they really do bite into this propaganda that they're the best? I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's pretty crazy. I don't know. Mittens, could you comment on that before we go?
My comment is that our time's up, and we'll get here next week.
Yes!
I wanted to thank everybody for coming, and for our guests for turning up, and also to everybody in the Imperium and in Legacy Coalition for showing up and fighting hard and getting us yet another glorious victory. So thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guests. K-Color, Jay, Asher. We'll be back next week. And again, next week should be Killer Bee, unless something drastically changes. So, see you guys.
Cheers.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.